Hola friends, welcome to the Medicine, Marriage, and Money YouTube channel, the only channel for physicians who want to achieve marital interdependence and financial freedom together. On this channel, you will learn how to show up as the best version of yourself so that you can love intentionally and build a more financially savvy relationship with your spouse. And I am your host, a physician mom, a doctor's wife, a Gottman leader, a certified life and marriage coach, Dr. Kate Mangona. Welcome. Bienvenidos. Hello, sweet friends, and welcome, beautiful Faryal, Michaud. Today, we are going to do a reverse interview, back and forth. So first, Dr. Faryal Michaud is a palliative care physician, certified life coach, the host and founder of Physicians Living Intentionally and Living Intentionally retreat coaching program, amazing mother, supportive and loving wife, and all around amazing friend and human being. I just love every time I see you post on social media, you always have something inspiring to share that kicks my butt in gear. And you also have this just really contemplative thought process that also helps me slow down at the same time and enjoy every single moment. So thank you so much, Faryal, for coming. I know it has been 3.5 years since I have had you on my podcast. So thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you so much, Kate. And I am also releasing this podcast. I've wanting to interview you for the longest time. And I just can't think of a better time to re-release the podcast, saying hello to everyone and your audience as well as mine. It's great to be here. And I love having Kate here. For you guys that don't know her, I've known Kate through the magic of online connections, through empowering women physician coaching that we did. And I also just love your personal journey from where I met you first, bring all the way to seeing you on stage, giving talks and lectures at the White Coat Investor, and just see you become who you are as this amazing mom and just somebody who really wants to be an advocate for healthy marriages in medicine. So thanks for being here and this conversation, Kate.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I know we've done so much together. We started coaching programs together. We became certified love coaches together. I saw you and leave clinical medicine, go back to clinical medicine, host two retreats, on your third retreat now, years of coaching. So I wanted to discuss first how this has all affected your marriage, beginning with becoming a coach. So getting coached first and empowering women physicians led you to then want to become a certified life coach yourself. And I spoke with you at the very beginning of this. So there's been 3-4 years since then. How has this affected your life on a day-to-day basis, and particularly at home with your love?
Yeah, these are wonderful questions. Specifically coaching. I think that I have always appreciated my husband. I always thought that just the way he went about life, not really caring about other people's opinion and putting himself and what he wants first. And I mean to say, if he needs to go windsurfing, he's going to make the time to go windsurfing. This has always been he has been. And I initially just realized that he could do no wrong. And what was fascinating with me, what coaching taught me, was he could do no wrong because of my thoughts about him. And what's fascinating about my previous relationship, it was almost like he could do no right. And I have to be careful because my ex listens to my podcast, so he's going to come across this episode. But the truth of it is, what's fascinating is, if you love someone, if you have positive thoughts about them, they can get away with a lot because you somehow psychologically cut them some slack for all the things. Now, on the other hand, and as a coach, if you don't have positive thoughts about someone, they can take a day off, they can, take you to somewhere magical, and you still feel like, well, what about the dishes in the sink you did? So like they can't do anything right. And what coaching did for me is realization and the awareness that my thoughts about him already determines the relationship I have with him. It's almost like his actions are not as important. And it's opposite of what we say, right? We say, don't tell me, what you think or what you are feeling. Show me with your actions that you care about me. I learned that that's actually not true. The work is on me. The work of how I want to have a relationship with my husband, or if I want to make it better, the work is in my head, is not his actions. And that blew my mind.
No, and most people still don't believe it, Faryal. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? When my husband doesn't help out at home at all, no meal planning, laundry, cleaning, he doesn't pick up the kids, I do all the school projects, and I go to work full time. What do you mean the thoughts, are make up our relationship? He's not. I feel like half the physician community online, if you go onto the Facebook groups, all hate their husbands because they don't do anything. They're like deadbeats. It's like all these women physicians went out, married these deadbeat husbands. That's what you would think if you read all these physician community forums. What do you think about that, Faryal? Where are their thoughts?
That's fascinating. I have to tell you, you talk about physicians living intentionally. I am very, very conscious and conscientious about what groups online I follow, or even on social media. Like I have friends on Instagram. I mean, I have friends in real life that on Instagram I do not follow because I just feel like they're showing a version of themselves that's not the reality. And it's not, I don't judge them. I love them. I would still love to catch up with them, but I'm very conscientious of the space I want to expose my brain and psyche to. And I have left a lot of those physician mom groups where I know, like I have unfollowed them, which means I don't want to see their feeds because so much of it is even the anonymous post, right? Like
all the anonymous
throwing the husband under the bus. And I'm not, listen, I know sometimes people post things like that for validation, or they trying to get out of an abusive relationship and they want support to do that, or they want to get other people to say, I'm not crazy, this is a bad situation. I do realize, so I'm not throwing everyone under the bus, but the majority of people are so bitter and don't see that the bitterness is so much rooted in their thoughts. And now, whether those thoughts are valid or not, like you and I don't know the whole story, right? But knowing that you create this hell in your own head is valuable awareness. Now, what you do with it is on your doing, right? No one says I'm not saying people should stay in bad relationship, but just realizing that so much of my husband doesn't do this, he doesn't even do that, he doesn't do this, he doesn't, like how many times as physician moms do we hear that? I know who my child's, orthodontist is, my husband has no clue. I know, like how many times do we hear that, right?
Yeah.
And then hold that against them.
Right. It's like, well, we chosen to kind of paint that picture for ourselves, that lives. We're the ones who know. We tend to be the martyrs, killing ourselves, doing everything because they don't do it well enough or fast enough.
Yeah.
I know some people like that in my life.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you say like what coaching has done is allowed me to see that, I don't want to say he doesn't deserve the love, allowed me to see that I give him a very long leash in all aspects of life because I truly love him. And it's my love for him that doesn't judge him. If it was somebody else, if I replace any of my exes that I'm no longer with for good reasons in the exact same location, in the exact same dynamic, I would be livid at them. But with my husband, because I truly love him, he
Yeah.
gets to do many things. And so I realized that, number one. And number two, I realize the ease I feel with him, it's all because I love him.
Yeah.
Right? He goes to Mexico in this remote area for windsurfing with his buddies that I cannot text. There's no electricity. I mean, this is really remote. And I get to love him and allow him to go without drama and
Right.
without realizing that he needs that time off. So it makes my life easy versus I can't believe he does this. Why can't I get a hold of him?
Oh, I get it. Same thing with long hours, right? When some of us have spouses that work very, very long hours. And so we might feel like we are doing the brunt of the household and parent work. And I learned that it's because I love him so much and he loves me so much that we're just playing our strengths. I mean, he's just doing what he loves to do and is strong at. And I like, so I mean, I get it. I get it. Now, let's fast forward a little bit. So you became a certified life coach. You founded Physicians Living Intentionally coaching program. You held your first retreat. And then at some point, you decided to leave clinical medicine. Tell us a little bit about that decision and how that affected your life, your marriage, and yourself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a great question. Like, if somebody told me I would have left clinical medicine at any point, I would be like, you're crazy. When I love teaching, academic teaching, and I always tell the residents that, or medical students who don't know what to do, I always say, pick a brand of medicine or a specialty in medicine that even if they didn't pay you, you would do it, like you'd volunteer. And because I do palliative care, and palliative care is so much like coaching, right? It's like,
Yeah.
let's talk about, if things can go wrong, they can go right. Let's focus on that. So palliative care and life coaching is exactly, to me, the same, except that with palliative care, I actually have symptom management tools. I can give you medication for the pain to go
Yeah.
away, in addition to what's going on in your mind. But what I wanted to talk about is, so I would have been okay staying in my medical job for like until I never worked again, like until people told me stop working. But what happens, so I have to explain that there was a shift in my job. Like, for example, I was working at the time when we moved to Hawaii from California. My husband, like yours, works long hours. So it was understood that I would be working part-time for the first time in my life. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was always like almost like 1.2 because I was wearing too many hats. But moving to Hawaii, I was working part-time. I was working 2.5 full days in a hospital, palliative care. And that actually worked perfect for me because there was days that I, if I couldn't get out of the hospital or whatever, my husband could give the girls rides. Like, actually, we scheduled our days that like he wouldn't have late consults. I remember specifically on the days that I had clinic. So I had a hospital. So it was very nicely was going to go that way. I don't think I would have left clinical medicine if my work duties and my work hours were the same. But something happened. I work for an organization in Hawaii where the company or that organization sort of went through like bankruptcy or whatnot, and another organization bought the existing one. And when that happened, the new organization asked me to work like a week on, a week off, because they said they thought that 2.5 days a week wouldn't provide as much continuity for the inpatient palliative, which I understand, but they wanted me to work that way.
Okay.
So the work requirement changed, and also because it was a different organization, controlling what all I had to do, the meetings I had to go to, changed as well. So essentially, the job I signed up for in 2016 was not the job I was doing in 2021.
Okay.
right? So again, if I had not done coaching, I would have just sucked it up and wouldn't care about working in the, driving an hour and a half in the morning, driving back home and out, like the 3 hours of commute, which was ridiculous. But so I would have just sucked it up.
Okay.
And then I just decided that I didn't want to do that. I didn't need to do that. Like we had enough money, like we were comfortable financially that I actually could stay home.
Mm-hmm.
And I had replaced my clinical income with coaching first year easily, like in half a year I did. So my brain is like, well, if you're doing it, I mean, the money can be replaced. We don't even need
Yeah.
the money. And I enjoyed coaching so much that this sort of made sense. But and so our marriage was great. Like my husband is like, oh, perfect. Like there was less work for him to do. The second I decided to leave clinical medicine, his life got easier immediately. My kid's life got easier immediately. But what changed for me is that I missed clinical medicine.
Wow. Okay, so how did their lives get easier? How did your husband's life get easier?
Is because if I was ever stuck at work for a late consult and I would say, can you pick up our girls because they go to different schools? He would have to leave midday. Like there's just two of us. We don't have anybody in Hawaii. And he would be like had to sometimes cancel patients and move the follow-ups to the next day. Like he had to accommodate things more. He would have to come. Sometimes he would go get the girls and then I would have to go get the girls. Like his days were longer when I was working clinically because we
Okay.
didn't have a nanny or like an in-between person.
Uh-huh.
And but also everything else that I would be frustrated with him. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to do this on top of this. Like I had a little bit of resentment because I did all the homework, so to speak, and then that he wasn't. Now I had no resentment. I'm like, well, I do all the things. I'll take the kids
Absolutely.
to cello, to guitar, to sailing. There was no juggling the parenting duties. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I
Mhm.
loved it. Like, if I didn't have to juggle, I don't mind. I love driving kids to activities because you'll see when your kids get older, they may not want to talk, teenagers may not want to talk as much as little girls. And when you drive them to sailing, to paddling with their friends, when you get to learn about the friends when you're carpooling.
Mm.
So it's a very different thing, right? Goes from a chore to a way of connecting with your kids.
Right. Ah, so you love being the Uber driver because it's a way of connecting and learning.
You're learning. And I will say, I was just talking to a colleague recently. I was like, when my kids were little, I wish I was home so badly. But,
Mm.
and of course, it's important for you to be there and see all the cute little things. But it's like when they're really little, anyone can feed and change them. It's when they get older that those deeper conversations need to happen with you as opposed to the nanny.
Yes, I totally so what age? Because this is my kids are 2, 4, and 6, and I get to take my kids to school maybe twice a week, either take them to school or pick them up. But yeah, my nanny does a majority of the pickups. What age do you feel like it becomes more important? Is there a magical age?
I would say, girls, I'm not a mom boy, so I don't know, a boy mom, so I don't know what their experience is. But for girls, I think middle school through high school, if you can have time where you can be there for them, frustrations, we're life coaches, so we can do more than just parenting, right? My
Oh,
daughter,
absolutely.
my daughter specifically will say, Mom, I need to get coached on something. So she can tell the difference of parenting and coaching. So I would say the insecurity, the confidence, the glitch, like wanting to belong, not to want to belong. Why do men apologize? Like the questions that come up. I don't think that if you're busy with the hair on fire, the kids will find that space in your day-to-day moments to approach you.
Right.
So middle
Yeah.
school through high school. I know not everyone has this luxury, and I know your audience may be like, oh, it must be nice. And I do believe and appreciate that it must be nice. But that was at the expense of me working every nights and weekends when the kids were little. So I mean, there's always a balance, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and then the must be nice is uh, we don't like that. We don't like that phrase. It must be nice. We can create anything we want to create.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel like you're working and you're living paycheck to paycheck, I mean, well, let's reevaluate where your money is going.
Mm-hmm.
Is your mortgage so big? Why are you choosing to live in this particular location at expense of having to say or choosing to say, oh, that must be nice. I wish I could be there. Well, do you really?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
So good. I love that very, very much. Because I think people just don't get the whole picture, and they just, I always tell my girls is like, we judge someone's like the front shop, right? What they see, you see the display, but in your own mind, you're only seeing your storage room, right?
Yeah.
You don't see that the hard work or their own storage room or whatever it means to live where you live. So, so anyway, so the long answer to your question is, so what happened is I just realized that I loved all that, but I really also missed clinical medicine. So then, but when it came time to do clinical medicine, I had to be very clear about what I wanted and what I didn't want. So I am doing exactly what I want, the amount of clinical medicine that I want to. And I do realize ever since I started, they're like, oh, any plans of, because there's a physician shortage in Hawaii and they would love me to have my hands in 7 things. Mm-hmm. And so this way, if I ever wanted to do more when both girls are gone to college, I still can create from a space of where I am, add on what I want, as opposed to dive in and take too much that I can carry.
Absolutely. Well, I love that. And I love that receiving coaching, becoming a coach, all this like really played into your decisions of leaving medicine, realizing you loved it, even though it made life easier for your husband and kids, and like figuring out a way to balance all of it, right? And then hosting retreats on top of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So tell us a little bit about why you decided to host a retreat, and you've done 2 of them so far, and the one that's coming up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In October. And first of all, I want to thank you for having been to both of them. So you have a little bit of an insight, a lot of insight of what goes in there. So, when the coaching started and when all of this happened, it was COVID, right? We were all like in small little areas, couldn't travel, couldn't go anywhere. And, I live in Hawaii, and I have not taken it for granted. Every day pinching myself, how is this my life? Putting my foot in the water and the warm waters, and just being here, it's an absolute like pleasure. Like, I dropped my daughter off in the school this morning, and it's like the sign in front of her school says "Drive with Aloha," and it just like caught me, because that's kind of like the experience that is. And I can talk about it on my podcast. I can, write about it on the blog or on the Facebook page, but it's like I always wanted to bring people to slow down and just appreciate. I think when you go on vacation, your hair is a little bit on fire, and you can be the type of person who goes to the pool and completely checks out and sends the kids to the clubhouse, or you can be the kind of person that like wants to see every single little church and alley. Either way, there is this intentional, like it's forced in one direction or another. And the word retreat, if you think about it, is like coming back from war. Like, if you look at the first explanation of what a retreat is when there's an actual conflict, and the one that retreats is stopping the war or withdrawing from the war. And I always loved retreat. I'm the kind of person that whatever chance I have, if I have a window to do a retreat, to go to a retreat, at 1 day one, work related, half day one, I go. So I wanted to invite everybody, number 1, to Hawaii, which I think is beautiful. Number 2, to specifically the Turtle Bay Resort, which I live on Oahu, and I know a lot of people love a lot of other islands that are all beautiful in their own right. The Big Island, the Maui, that I know you are having this amazing retreat coming up, and Kauai, like all of them are beautiful. How can you even choose? But because this is my island that I live on, and the two yoga teachers that are part of my Living Intentionally coaching program live on the island, and I always envisioned them to be a part of this. And so that's sort of how it started. And I wanted it to be small. I didn't want it to be big. I never did like Facebook ads. Specifically, it was word of mouth. People who were there came back or brought a friend. And so I wanted to have that, let's slow down. Let's just like really go in. Let's just really love the life we live in. And another thing I wanted to share with is that there is a slowing down in the brain that happens when people are faced with a serious illness. So like you and I, Kate, have all the time in the world. We have no idea. Like you're like, I have a goal. Like people say, what do you want to do? Where do you want to be in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years? And we do all these imaging about where we're going to be, or we even do like vision boards and stuff. But the truth of it is we could be, once we get faced with a serious illness diagnosis where we have a limited time, we don't have that luxury anymore. So our focus becomes crystal clear. What matters becomes crystal clear. And there's a slowing down process that happens that allows people to savor life more. So when I saw that in patients or even their families who are going to lose, I'm like, what if we could have that without the serious illness?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And you're making me want to come back again, Faryal. And, cause I planned my retreat specifically a day after yours so that I would already be there so I could hop from one to the other, so that anybody who wants to do both girlfriend time or just intentional time. I love the retreat too, because to come back from war, I feel like mine is an intimacy, a couples retreat, whereas yours is women's, living intentionally. Last year they're all women physicians, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coming back from the war, I think of like the workplace, the crazy chaotic schedule, and like finding yourself. And then mine would be like remembering you're on the same team with your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all feel like we have this internal conflict and war in our own house or with our own spouse. And it's like, let's remember why we love each other. Let's like recreate our life story together and enhance our intimacy. So beautiful, Faryal. Everybody listening should come on both. October 2nd through 6th, right, is Faryal's. And on Maui, it takes one island hop, less than an hour. I mean, Oahu. Then you fly over to Maui, and then 7th through 11th. So thank you so much for answering all my questions about your transitions into coaching and in and out of medicine, and how that affected your whole family. Some of the things that I love that you said, I'm just going to briefly summarize, is my thoughts about him already determine the relationship I have with him. Love that, right? If you're bitterness is just in your thoughts. You're creating your own hell in your head, right? And leaving, the ease you feel with him is because you love him. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Okay. And then your kids will find more spaces to talk to you if you make yourself more available to them as they get older. They will. Okay. Well, thank you, Faryal. And ask me anything.
Yes. Okay. I know you have other engagements, and so do I. So we have just 10 minutes, 9 minutes, I'm looking. And so I want to ask you, tell us a little bit about, so just those of you who don't know, Kate is married to an amazing radiation oncologist who also is very well versed with finances and real estate, and I invest with him. And so, but the two of you have 3 kids under 7. Tell me how that life is.
Oh my gosh. Well, it is chaotic and we do have help. So even though I'm part-time, I work three clinical days, one half admin days, so I work 3.5 days a week. I have a full-time nanny. She works 40 to 50 hours a week. She helps me do little drop-ups and pickups. But I will say I am still very intentional about the time I spend with them. Most of my evenings, if I'm not guest coaching in somebody's program, hosting a webinar or educational series, I am with them most of those evenings. I also I do not do coaching typically on weekends. So most of my weekends, except for spatterings of call that I have, I am with my kids. And I feel like the other huge thing is I take care of myself. I go on retreats. I sign up for every one of your retreats. I make time to call my friends and my mom. I'm very, just like you said about your husband, right? We're both married to radonks. Your husband is like, I'm going to windsurf. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about that. Like, I am the same way. Like, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to go work out. It doesn't matter if my baby cries because, my 2.5-year-old cries because she wants me to put her clothes on. Like, I can put her clothes on after school. I can change her into her pajamas. I can put her clothes on the weekend or tomorrow. But right now, I'm going to go work out because I need to work out, I know, 3 times a week in order to feel strong and healthy in my own body. So I know what it is I need, and I fill those cups so that I can show up for my kids and for my spouse ready for quality time. You'll find those moms who stay at home and they could be just as burnt out, right? As somebody who's juggling going to work. Because if you're at home and you're doing all the laundry and cooking and cleaning and not taking care of yourself at all and focusing on the kids, that time might not be quality because you're always there, but you're trying to multitask at everything you do. Not all, full-time moms do that, but some of them have the same problems that working moms have, just in a different setting.
Mm-hmm. That's such an important point you bring up because I think this is what everybody needs to hear. Because also, like, I know people who stay home and like say the 3 months that they have maternity leave. And if they have other kids, people assume now that they're home, they're going to do more. They actually do less because they're overwhelmed more.
Yeah.
Right? So if you only have 1 hour to do laundry on a Tuesday afternoon, you may get it done then. But if you have all the day to do that, but you also have 50 other things to do because it's expected of you because you're home. Yeah, I think there's more burnout on people who stay home, truly. And I love that about you. I love that you put yourself, and I have to share this with the audience that the first time you came, you brought your mom and your aunt.
I need to bring them back, Faryal.
That was I can't tell you because, I talk a lot about high definition moments in life because people will say, like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you guys, like my husband and I, going to Maldives, which is the farthest place you could go from Hawaii? People are like, you crazy, like, you're here. Why? I'm like, I envision that, like, scuba diving in Maldives. It's going to be a high definition moment in my life. So if I have opportunities in high definition moment living, not all the time, but like peaks. Like, I follow you on Instagram and all the little places that you and your husband places go to, or you go on your own. It's like living your life fully. It doesn't have to be that you have to go to a faraway place. It may be that you hike in a place that it's in your backyard and you've never been to.
Yeah.
And I think at retreat, like for you, what you're doing with couples in Maui, like, we don't do that for ourselves. And, I was watching something with my daughter the other day, and it was like a wedding, and it was just like, so, how the weddings are. And you think about how more than half of marriages end up in a divorce. You have to think that when they got married, not all of them, this is like, no, mom, not all of them, but you have to believe at some point they loved each other so much. Right. And like, what happened that it was like so fractured that it was no longer something they could repair. And I'm not saying a retreat like yours is going to like reconnect people that have nothing in common. But if you're so busy putting fires out with the kid and the work, don't you deserve that moment for yourself?
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. It's like rekindling the love that's already there. Yeah. We're not going to take somebody who's signing the divorce papers, right? But I call people who already love each other still. They're just not making enough time to deepen the connection, to enhance the intimacy, to make love with one another by the beach, like on the beach, by the ocean. And because we're just so go, go, go in this country, it's all about productivity and efficiency. And it's like, okay, well, who cares if you can write 10 papers in one day if your marriage is falling apart and your kids don't want to spend time with you? And then you're just unhappy at the end of your life.
Okay, so we have 2 minutes. I want to ask you, tell me about this retreat. Where is it? Who is it for? And what can people expect?
It is in Maui at the Four Seasons for 5 days, October 7th through 11th this year, 2024, just after your retreat. It is for couples, and people can expect to be in absolute heaven, to connect deeper. There's going to be mindset coaching, embodiment coaching. We're going to have excursions. I've already planned a bike ride down Haleakala, which is the most magical mountain in Hawaii. You bike ride down a cloud, like through these very gentle, smooth switchbacks, very safe. Your souls become intertwined on this bike ride when you do it with your spouse. I am not even kidding you. It's just that it's just like your surroundings are absolutely magical. You understand this living in Hawaii. It's unlike anything else. And it's undivided attention. There will be no kids there trying to ask you to do things. Work will not be calling you. It is 5 days you are spending only with your spouse, working on you. Whether it's talking about desires, maybe you haven't shared, learning about desires you've never asked about, or planning your 5-year plan, discovering new goals or how you can support your spouse and their goals and how they can support you and yours. And all these things we just don't take time to talk about in the normal chaos of life. And beautiful food. The other like-minded couples, it's going to be 8 couples. So you're going to be with other couples who want to elevate and like to grow, right? And contribute back to each other and to others. So it's going to be amazing.
It's going to be magical. I'm just excited. I know exactly what that bike ride is. And I do not doubt that there's going to be this intertwining of souls, and definitely a high definition moment on life of anyone who's going to be there. So last minute, what is on your bucket list, Kate?
Okay, so my bucket list on it has been more slow travel, particularly spending a month abroad, like taking a month in the summer and living somewhere else. This is something I've never really done with my children. And it is so hot in Dallas in the summers. I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to creatively do this. Haven't figured it out yet, but I'm thinking about it. So I want to be able to slow travel in other countries or parts of the region. That is currently on my bucket list.
I love that. And it's a wonderful thing to aspire to. Thank you so much, Kate. This was a lovely chat. I loved having you and you asking me questions. This was a wonderful treat. Thank you so much for taking.
Oh, thank you, Faryal. It was such a pleasure and honor going back and forth. I love it.
I love you. Have a wonderful day.
Love you too. Bye. If you are finding the concepts I teach in these episodes useful and want more in-depth and personalized support for your relationship, consider this your invitation to join me in creating the most connected and intimate relationship with your spouse that you could dream of. Go to www.medicinemarriageandmoney.com right now and download my 18-page medical marriage survival guide and workbook at no cost to you. I also have a 6-day marriage challenge, which goes over the 6 predictors of divorce at no cost to you. These have been known to decrease fighting, rumination, and grudges between you and your loved one. If you want to take it a step farther, really enhance the joy and connection in the most intimate relationship in your life, Sign up for my 8-week Making Marriage Work program today at medicinemarriageandmoney.com. Thanks for leaving us a stellar review, subscribing, and sharing with your friends on social media. You have the power to improve someone else's life and marriage simply by sharing this episode. Much love to you and your spouse. You're exactly where you need to be in this moment. Adios, my friends. The content of this episode is not intended to be a substitute for professional, medical, or financial advice. The opinions provided on this episode are those of myself or the invited guest alone. They do not represent the opinions of any particular institution. Always seek the advice of your physician or financial advisor with any questions you may have of a medical condition or financial plan. This is for your entertainment only.